guys, Katie here today, and I'm going to be doing just a short little tutorial with the new image Yeti here. He's a clear stamp, and how I would color in white fur. So I'm going to be using my Copics. I'm going to be using three colors, W0, W1, and W3. I really like doing them using those colors for white. And I'm going to have my light source coming from the top right hand side, so most of the shadows are going to be falling on the left side of his body. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my W3, which is going to be my darkest color, and I'm just going to map in where those shadows are going to be falling. The important thing to think about when you do white is that you're not going to cover all of the image. You still need white to be showing. So I'm going to be adding this darkest color here, but I'm not going to go in too far. And this is just going to be anywhere where I think there would be some shadows. You don't have to be too neat with this because he has fur. So I'm going to be adding in some texture with the way that I color. And so that means that this doesn't have to be so exact. Now his hand would be casting a shadow there, so it would be darker in there. And then on this side of his body again, it's going to be mostly on the left, but it's going to be closer to my light source, so I'm going to do a little bit lighter. And since it's coming from the top right, the underneath part of his arm would have some shadow. And so would there be right here in the crook where his arm is kind of covering that. Now that I have my W3 down, I'm going to take W0, so I'm skipping the W1, and the reason for this is I like the effect that the W0 gives on the W3. It's kind of a washed out effect, and I really like that, so I want that to shine through. Now this is where I'm going to start adding some of the texture from his fur. If you watched how I do my bunny rabbits, I did a video on that a little bit earlier. It's the same technique. So instead of doing really a flick or circles or anything like that, or doing just a line, I'm going to kind of squiggle my marker back and forth, like so. And what that does is give an uneven sort of look to it, which looks like it could be texture from fur, because not all of the fur would be the same length or would lay the same. So it gives a little bit of that kind of effect in there. Plus it's super easy. You don't have to think too hard about it. And messy is better. And I love that. So I'm just going back over all of those areas where I laid down my W3. That was kind of my roadmap for where these shadows were going to be. And the main thing is I'm not extending them much further. A little bit further because this is a lighter color, but not a ton, because I still want it to look like my image is white and not gray. So now, because that W0 is so light, I'm going to switch over to my W1, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to do that squiggly motion again, and I'm not going to take it as far in as I took the W0, and I'm going to be even messier with it. And I'm more using the very tip of my marker with this one so that the squiggles are more defined. They're not a solid line. You can actually see a little bit of the squiggle in there. Again, that is what is adding in that texture. And now just to soften all of that up one more time, I'm going to take my W0 and really messily, that's a word now, really messily go back over that. And you can see this side I'm leaving mostly white, because that's where the majority of my light source would be hitting. Now, if you want an added kind of depth to your image, you can go back in with your W3, or if you're feeling adventurous and you want a lot of contrast, you can even use W5. I'm just going to stick with my W3, and I'm going to go back in to the very corners and tightest spots where the shadow would be the darkest, and I'm just going to add a little of that back in there. And the main thing with this is just to do it sparingly. Notice I'm not going back into every single spot, just the places that would be the darkest. And adding some more depth there. This is a completely optional step. You don't really have to do it if you don't want to. But it's one of those finishing things that I think adds a little bit. And there you go. Now I would say that that's completed. If you want to add more contrast, you could go back in there with your W0 again. The main thing is just to make sure that you're never using up all of your space with your grays. You want to leave a decent amount of white there so that in the end your image looks white, it just looks three-dimensional. So I hope that you've enjoyed this and it's been helpful. Make sure that you check out the new Yeti Clear Stamp in the shop. And thanks for watching. Bye!